you and I ever had a falling out, would you ever go to social media to put me on blast, as the kids say?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely, because that's what we do.
That's not fair or nice.
Why is it not fair?
I guess it would be fair, maybe, depending on the situation. So it's a weird term to use for a public falling out. But no, I don't want us to ever bicker like Elon and Trump right now.
Well, you know what? Since we are going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers today, this could be the show that does it, that puts it over the edge.
Yeah, God, those two kids just can't get along. It's one of the more messier breakups in duo history, I would say. Like, God, Keenan and Kel breaking up, or Mike Myers and Dana Carvey having a falling out.
Yeah,
Sad.
yeah, it's really funny how just they were how it kind of started with Elon taking a chainsaw to bureaucracy at a Republican national convention and clearly on his ketamine, and then it goes into a New York Times article that says he's not just on ketamine, he's been on a lot of ketamine, but a lot of other drugs. And then it gets to him tweeting that Trump's on the Epstein list. Oh, it's just been a beautiful week.
So that's his drug of choice, his Special K?
It's ketamine. Yeah, he admitted it on live TV, though he said he took it for his depression. He was saying he was taking it like in very small doses once every 2 weeks. But then this New York Times article came out citing, I think, like a dozen people close to Elon, close to Trump, who basically said, yeah, he's been overdoing it. He's been abusing that. And
Okay.
it's been caught on video, right? This dude has he's been out there like stretching his neck constantly, looking like he's rebooting. Some people even thought he was an actual robot just because he's a billionaire, and you can make like an actual robot clone of yourself if you wanted to with the kind of money that he has.
I guess
People
that is
thought
true.
that could have been a thing. Although now the popular talking point among the Trump land is that Mr. Biden was a clone himself this entire time.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, all seems feasible to me. I bring this up because I wasn't even paying attention to this feud that they were having. I was reacting to the Rodgers news on Thursday. Then I was texting you and be like, "Oh boy, here we go." And Steve was like, "I don't give a shit about that right now. Look what Elon and Trump are doing." And I'm like, "I don't care about any of these people." But then, like, when you like, I don't want to put Rodgers in the same boat as those guys because I just think that they're just backstabbing assholes. Where I don't know, like we'll get to it all today. Just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. You're going to see a theme today of kind of separating an athlete from the person they are. We'll get into that conversation when we discuss Aaron Rodgers and the news finally happening that he signed a deal with the Steelers. We'll get to a lot of stuff today with the NBA final, Stanley Cup final, Giants have a 4-game winning streak, and a lot of sports media beefs going on these days. But
Yeah.
Steven, there's a thrilling tennis match going on right now between Sinner. I actually thought like a lot of people were just watching the movie Sinners and we're loving it.
Yeah.
And, like found it on like digital now, like watching it at their homes. And it's like didn't for whatever reason we're not tweeting out the plural of it. Like this morning I saw Bonte, he's like, "Man, Sinner masterpiece." And I'm like, "I think it's Sinners, Bonte." I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. I'm sounding like an asshole right now."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could also say like it's Alcaraz. No, it's Alcatraz.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I thought that too. I thought a lot of people were misspelling Alcatraz.
Mm-hmm. No,
I'm late to the party.
It's the final at the French Open, aka Roland Garros, which is what they're trying to call it now. It hasn't worked, by the way. They've tried doing a total switch up of the name. Roland Garros is the location where it takes place, but it's always been called the French Open. Now they're just trying to transition into it being called Roland Garros. They're not trying to call it the French Open anymore.
Okay. All right.
You'll hear it on the broadcast. Like Adam Lefkoe had himself a slip up and almost called it the French Open.
Adam Lefkoe's on that too?
Yeah, he's on TNT.
Well, yeah, I know that. He's on everything. Okay.
He's the only one who the last podcast I showed you, Tennis Centel. He's the only one that got it because it's like NBA Centel's a thing, so he knows what's up. John McEnroe doesn't though.
The only thing I was hoping for, though, was McEnroe realizing that Tennis Santel got him, and he's like, "You cannot be serious."
So Alcaraz and Sinner in the final. Sinner's the #1 player in the world. Alcaraz is the defending champ. He's kind of like just been killing it, especially in the last calendar year. And Sinner had 3 chances to win the championship. He was on a championship point, but then Sinner came all the way back, and then he ended up winning the entire set. That was in the 4th set. Now we're in the 5th set, and Alcaraz is up 3-1. So, yeah, this is like a massive comeback. This doesn't happen often.
All right, well, that's tasty.
It is.
Are you a big Wimbledon guy?
I like Wimbledon. I like the Grand Slam tournaments. I actually like keeping up with tennis whenever I can. It's just these matches take a long time, man.
They do, and
5 hours at times.
Yeah, like I'll never forget me and my pops watching Nadal and Federer. God, was it like 2008 in the summertime?
Yeah,
where that match. I want to say we watched that like well into the morning, like 2 o'clock in the morning. It went on for a while. And I was like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah. It's all time. I like this one just because of the clay surface, though. Like it's much harder to deal with, whether you're just trying to stay on your feet or whether the way the ball moves. Wimbledon's just so elegant, man. I don't know what it is. And then you got the US Open, where there's just everyone's smelling a bunch of weed all the time because it's right next to a park where a bunch of people smoke weed.
It's not a bad thing. Not a bad. Sometimes tennis can be a little dull, and you get nice inspiration for the sport when you're, having a little secondhand smoke.
Got to ask you this though, because the French Open, and I think they do this with every Grand Slam, as far as I know. But so really, it's just a problem with tennis. But yesterday they had the women's final with Coco Gauff and Arina Sabalenka, and Sabalenka wears her heart on her sleeve. Like,
these are some amazing names, by the way.
She does not shy away from showing her emotions, right?
Okay.
And she lost, and she wasn't taking it very well. And you have to go on the stage after the match, go through this whole pomp and circumstance to celebrate the champion, and then the loser has to first give a speech. What do you think about that?
I don't like that at all. Emotions can get the best of us when we are in the middle of defeat. So it's best just to nod your head, shake hands, be a gracious loser, and say nothing.
Yeah, well, she is forced. I think she'd rather have it that way, but she was forced to do that, and she was up there, tears streaming down her face.
That's asking a lot. I'm sorry, but I'm all for sportsmanship, but don't force it on people.
Yeah. So that's it was fine after the match. She gave her a hug and did the whole thing. It wasn't like she was a sore loser, but she was obviously very beat up about it, because I think she said this earlier in the tournament, but a lot of people had told her that on the clay surface, she'll never win anything. So I think she really took this one to heart. And the fact that
that's rough.
You come up short in the final, and you have to listen to the national anthem and watch that American flag waving in your face, and then you got to give the speech. It's just bizarre, man.
I mean, I think it's tough when you watch college football and the losing team still goes in the middle of the field and celebrates their fight song. But to force people to give a speech, you imagine like Tarantino, so this screenwriter won Best Original Screenplay, but let's hear from Tarantino in a losing effort. Well, props to that person, but I think my movie was more well written. You just want to do that, so that's bullshit, honestly.
Yep. By the way, with the thing you were mentioning earlier, how there was just kind of the firestorm of tweets with the Trump versus Musk stuff. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers intending to sign a 1-year deal. Mm-hmm. This was the best. Something that went viral, and I want to find it just so I have the official tweet. But it was from, all right, here we go. It was from John Rothstein, who covers college basketball. He's an analyst. You see him on the NCAA. You see him on the for CBS. He's all on the panel. In the middle of this whole thing, Trump, Musk, Aaron Rodgers, John Rothstein chimes in. Source: Iona and Fordham will begin a home-and-home series on November 14th in New Rochelle.
Okay.
and you'll see it's got a lot of engagement.
Yeah.
It's got 444 reposts and 6.4 thousand likes, all because it was posted just before 1 o'clock that afternoon, Pacific time. It's just so random just to see everything Trump, Elon, Rodgers, and it's Iona and Fordham, November 14th, home and home.
Can't wait, baby.
Yeah.
New Rochelle.
Then he got made fun of for it, and then he tweeted out later. He's like, "Look, some people pay attention to what's going on in the world. I pay attention to college basketball. Sue me."
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame him for. I'm sorry, but there's no reading the room when it comes to Twitter. Sorry, or X, or whatever the fuck. Like you post. You post what you want to post, and if it's not going along with the algorithm at the time, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's really funny though.
And I love how we're lumping them all together: Elon, Trump, and Rodgers. Like,
well, I mean, you kind of can, because Rodgers has been all about Trump's Secretary of Health or Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy. So
yeah. No, I mean, he's a big fan of him, but I wouldn't say I never heard him endorse Trump himself. But I don't know. We'll get to separating an athlete from their political agenda or what they say on podcasts, as is the case with Rodgers. But let's just talk about actual sports to start this out. NBA finals have started, and it's always been spaced out like this from Thursday to Sunday. But like, damn, I don't know. After like the exhilarating win from Indiana on Thursday, I'm like, kind of want some sports. And the Stanley Cup final game 2 was Friday night, another overtime win. Florida came back to win that game. Actually, I was following that game on like the ESPN box scores, and I thought the game was over. I saw that Florida was up with like a minute left, and I was like, all right, this game's over. And then they scored with like, what, Steven, like 8 seconds left?
Yeah.
Went to OT, double OT. Florida ends up winning, but that's been a fun series. Both games have gone to overtime. The Pacers, again, coming back down from 15 to win a game. I mean, we were texting about it. They're just fucking cockroaches. You can't kill this team. It's amazing.
It's like, I didn't get what the Thunder were doing towards the end of that game. Like, sure, credit the Pacers. They were getting a lot of, I think, lucky bounces, at least with Miles Turner in that 3. I keep on looking at that one specifically where he hits it off the backboard. But it was like Obi Toppin who was hitting them, and obviously Miles Turner, as I just mentioned, and then Halliburton with that huge, long 2, that Carmelo Anthony type of shot. But I was just watching the Thunder, and where was the ball movement? Like, that's where I think I kind of said it going into the series, and I said this team doesn't look like they're fazed by the inexperience. It looks like they've been here before, but the way they closed out that game, it was, I focus on one shot in particular, and it was Chet Holmgren going coast to coast and then smoking a layup, and I think the Pacers ended up getting points out of it on the other end. Like, that's why no lead is safe in the NBA, because a lot of guys can make shots, but the Thunder really shot themselves in the foot just by these ISO plays where they're not moving the ball. They were moving it beautifully through 3 quarters. And in the 4th quarter, they just collapsed. Unreal.
Yeah, I mean, you have to say that the better team for the majority of the game were the Thunder. But the Pacers just have this ability to stick around in games and have clutch shooting down the stretch. Like, Halliburton didn't play that great of a game, and then 4th quarter he showed up, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 38 points. Yeah, I think the Thunder are the better team, but damn, with the way the Pacers are doing this right now, they're like a team of destiny. And I don't think they won the series by any means, but you can establish a tone in game 1, kind of like what they did with the Knicks in game 1, having that, that pat or that shot that clanked in, and then after that, the Knicks are like, well, damn, how like, not that they could have tied up the series and won that series, but like after they kind of stole your heart and game 1, you're kind of like looking over your shoulder now and being like, well, there's so much pressure on us now, and the Pacers didn't even play that well. So the Thunder better win tonight. Otherwise, I mean, going back to Indiana, and they're up 2-0. Yeah, I didn't think there was a strong possibility that the Pacers could win the series, but now I do after that game 1.
I don't even think they need to win tonight, dude. I think they need to crush them. I think they need to go back to this Nuggets series where they had their hearts broken by Aaron Gordon on that buzzer beater, which was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then they come out the next game and they end up winning 140-106. Like, they need that type of victory. They don't need to just beat them. They don't need this coming down to the wire. They need to blow them out. They need to take whatever lead they had going into the 4th quarter and just build on it, build on it, build on it, build on it. And then you had like the MVP Shea Gilgeous-Alexander missing that shot in the final seconds too. And I thought what was interesting at the beginning of the game. I don't know if this had any bearing on really what happened, but the fact that Dagnall went away from the starting five that he's been using for this entire playoffs, and then I forgot who he subbed in for Hartenstein, but Richard Jefferson said, like, look, if I'm the Pacers, I'm already thinking, oh, they're making adjustments before we even played a game. Like, I'm in their heads. And I do think there was a little bit of overthinking going into this series because they had just so much time off, at least on Dagnall's part. And I think Rick Carlisle's like a veteran. He's like, I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to switch anything up. As much film as we want to watch, like, this is the starting five we're rolling with because this is the starting five that's been winning us games.
Yeah, he definitely overthought it, and I saw a lot of people criticize that move. And we gotta give props to Rick Carlisle too. Not that he just won one game, but if he wins this NBA Finals with in my opinion, a less talented team, I think that'd be the second time he's won a championship with a less talented team when he beat the Miami Heat with the Dallas Mavericks. He doesn't get mentioned a lot as far as being one of the best coaches of basketball. Steve Kerr, obviously, and Eric Spoelstra. Popovich just retired. Those guys were in one spot for a long time. Rick Carlisle jumped around. He was the guy that kind of established the Ben Wallace Detroit Pistons, then went to Indiana, then went to the Dallas Mavericks, won a championship, and then Luka didn't like him, so he got fired. Then went back to Indiana. He's not mentioned a lot. And, my dad loves calling him the angry Jim Carrey because he does kind of look like him. But yeah, I don't think that he gets enough credit sometimes. And I do think that even if he doesn't win this championship, I think you have to look to him and on the short list of some of the best coaches in the NBA right now.
Yeah, he's been in the league for so long.
He has.
It's just, I didn't even know that he was on that 86 Boston Celtics team that won the championship. He was drafted by them in 84. He was
remember Stanley talking to us about him? Like, like he wasn't like a huge player on that team, but he was a role player.
Isn't you mean that Sane interview when he's like, you guys remember from 1973?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I was like, no,
you gotta love Stanley.
We weren't around. We weren't around then.
Come on, guys, you know your basketball history. Shit, come on.
It's like, love him to death. By the way, Alcaraz is up 4-2, but it looks like Sinner's about to win this set to make it 4-3. Oh, this is crazy. Anyway.
Well, keep us updated on that, Stephen. But between the two, the finals and the final, you want the sunlight in there?
Yeah, man.
You should. What has been more entertaining? And that's maybe a dumb question because there's only been one, game in the NBA Finals so far, and it's always going to be spaced out like that. But I don't know. Like, if we're up to me, like, I'd rather have the Stanley Cup final last night, not on Friday night. I totally missed that, but. I figured, well, actually, Friday night to Saturday night, I don't know what the TV ratings are. Probably about the same. But you have to say the Stanley Cup final has been more exciting because of the two games and just going to overtime. Yeah. And it's a rematch of a season ago. But so far, so good between, these the final and the finals for hockey and basketball.
It's on the court. I mean, we could see one, but I don't envision it being as compelling as the Stanley Cup playoff because I think it's what encompasses the Stanley Cup. It's not just, what's going on with the teams. I think the broadcast, the idea that one of the all-time great players in Wayne Gretzky is being an analyst for this game. Mm-hmm. And you're watching kind of the next Wayne Gretzky and Connor McDavid try to win his first Stanley Cup at 28 years old. And then on the flip side of it, you also got the Florida Panthers who I don't know if anyone expected them to be back here, but they also made like this blockbuster trade for Brad Marchand from the Boston Bruins, who everyone thought would be a Bruins lifer. Then he ends up knocking in the game winner there in game 2 for the Panthers. And the series is split. It's been extremely even. It's been more violent. Yeah, I got to give it to the Stanley Cup playoff. It's no knock on the Thunder and Pacers series. I'm not going to go so far as to say no superstars I'm not watching. But
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
the Panthers and Oilers is, I mean, it's far more compelling for me, and I just enjoy the broadcast a little bit more. I mean, I don't like. I personally, I'm sorry, but I just don't like ESPN as a basketball broadcast. I think TNT was the much better product. I love Mike Breen. I absolutely love Mike Breen. But did you say you hear what he said after the game?
Why he didn't do a bang?
Yeah. Yeah.
That called for a bang, I would say. Like,
that was bang worthy.
I would agree. I just listening to the broadcast, and then next day when we replayed the highlight, I was like, how come Breen's not doing a bang there? And yes, I mean, he is on record saying he does reserve the bangs for threes. And it's not for every player sometimes. Like, he doesn't throw out bangs willy-nilly. Like, remember a couple years ago, what was his name? Was it Myers Leonard? The guy that showed his true colors a couple years later?
Right.
He had actually a shit ton of threes in a Western Conference Finals between the Trailblazers and Warriors, and he had an amazing game where he had a bunch of threes. I think at one point Mark Jackson was like, "You gonna give this guy a bang?" And then Jeff Van Gundy, of course, was having fun with it, being like, "Well, some players are bangable and some players are not." But
do you think though there's a little bit of that Reggie Miller angle where people thought it was embarrassing that Reggie Miller's out there hugging the Pacers as they won the Eastern Conference title? Breen has a connection to the Knicks.
Yes.
They obviously lost to the Pacers. I wonder if there's a little bit of bias there, because I guarantee you, had that been Jalen Brunson hitting that mid-range jumper in the final seconds, it would have gotten a bang. He would have broken his rule.
No. Mike Breen is a professional and a really good guy. I'll be damned if you're going to besmirch his name here, because he's a Knicks play-by-play guy, and he's bitter because the Knicks didn't make the finals. No, he's not like that.
All right.
Okay, but why do you say you like the TNT broadcast more than ESPN? Because
not so much the play-by-play and all that. It's not the play-by-play and the analysis. It's just the entire broadcast. I think TNT just does a better job of covering the sport. I think they do a better job of making it more exciting. I think ESPN just has a bunch of commercials. I think their halftime show is terrible. I am more just watching the game, whereas on TNT, I want to watch everything around the game. I want to watch the pregame. I want to watch the postgame. I want to watch the halftime. Like, I don't want to watch any of that with ESPN. I just want to watch the game. Like, thank you for broadcasting it. I'm not going to watch any of your extra coverage.
Yeah, I would say for ESPN, I do love.
I'm gonna turn on the light in here. Hang on.
Go for it. I mean, Mike Breen is one of the best play-by-play guys in all of basketball, and Kevin Harlan is, and so is Ian Eagle.
Yeah.
Excuse me. As far as like the analyst work, I mean, TNT, I told you before, I'm not a big Reggie Miller fan. Stan Van's fine, but on ESPN or ABC, I do like Doris Burke, and I think Richard Jefferson, he kind of says dumb things sometimes, but he is solid on the mic. He doesn't ever misspeak. He's pretty confident in what he says sometimes. He says some goofy things. He calls out players, but I don't think he's bad. And I think Doris Burke actually gives really good analysis, and I don't know why her name is being dragged through the mud right now, where like
drug through the mud. Is that
the way to say it?
Is that a new plural for drag or drug?
Whatever, drag through the mud, whatever. Drag.
Can you imagine us on analysis? Like,
exactly.
If we were alongside the play-by-play guy, we'd just be taking shots at each other this whole time.
Basically. And sometimes that makes for good, broadcast teams when you're just calling each other out.
Sometimes. But at other times you're like, okay, come on, you guys are being petulant children. Will you shut up? Just move on.
Okay,
probably
but
like some who hate me think from that little comment right there, just move on, Steven. What does it matter? Drug through the mud, drag through the mud, who cares?
Okay, but Doris Burke has been dragged through the mud recently. What was the comment she made on one broadcast where she was saying, like, I know the French and I forget what she was even saying.
Yeah, she was trying to make some joke, French, German, whatever. I don't know.
It was fine. I mean, honestly, I'll say it. If a man did that, I don't think people would give a shit.
I think she's It's actually happened quite a bit, Derek. I don't know if you like. I'm. It's a real problem of mine, but I'm always looking on the. I'm always like perusing social media, dude. I'm
Mm-hmm.
addicted to it. I gotta get off it, really. But
Yeah, I
you'll
would
see
say
it
so.
on you'll see it on that site Brick Central,
Yeah.
or you'll see sometimes her name trending. I know I'm always curious as to what people are saying. Um, but people just seem to be off on Doris Burke, and I don't know why.
She's
And
a woman.
and apparently ESPN is too, because ESPN is considering moving off of her. And that news being brought to light from awful announcing, I just think that's stupid. Like, why are you bringing that up now, just before the finals? It's like, hey, let's give people a reason to just hate listen and not look at it objectively. It just creates this bias that I think is super unfair.
I agree, and I think that Doris Burke has been solid on the mic for years, and I think that she's just getting more attention now because she's on the main broadcast. But no one brought this up before. Like, I think Tom used to say ridiculous things during the broadcast sometimes, and I mean, it's a different time and era. Like when Tom was on ESPN or NBC, if he made that comment between the French and Germans, people just kind of laugh at that. But for whatever reason, it's all criticized with Doris Burke. I just thought she was making a joke. It wasn't that big of a deal. I don't know why, because she called Shea Gilgeous-Alexander the free throw merchant, and that's a nickname that has been placed upon him. I don't blame Awful Announcing for having that report. I blame ESPN for leaking their discussions of not bringing her back. I think she's solid. Is
Yeah.
she the best NBA analyst? No, but I don't think there's a lot of them out there. So she's on my short list of one of the best in basketball right now. I think she's really good. I've said that for years, and I don't know why we're over analyzing her now because I mean that's just what we do. That's what we do. That's why some people are fired now. I think that's why Jason Witten, even though he wasn't great, but I thought we overanalyzed him on social media, and that's what led to him being fired, or Drew Brees having one season on Sunday Night Football, or not even one season. He just did like a test run, and people didn't want him. So
And also being the analyst is something that I think a lot of fans feel they can do, because it's like if they're explaining what's going on in the game, so no, that's wrong. What are they talking about? I think it's very easy to try and criticize analysts for their work, and less about the play-by-play guys, because they've just been around for so long and they're literally saying what's happening on the court.
well,
Although,
most of the time, the play-by-play people are more polished because they're broadcasters.
and they have
Where
to be.
exactly, and the analysts are former players, and sometimes it's not going to be 100% smooth, but they know what they're talking about.
Is
I
there
don't
one
know.
who's like unanimously loved though, Derek? Like I can't even think. I think there's one. It feels like they're always divided on others. Like you mentioned already, Reggie Miller and Stan Van Gundy,
Yeah,
Richard Jefferson and Doris Burke. I mean, I'm sure you could find people who are on both sides of the coin. I mean, the only one that I've truly heard where it seems everyone loves him is Greg Olson, and he doesn't even
yep.
have a job right now. Like that's the only one I could think of.
Well, he's number 2 for Fox,
Oh,
but
that's right. That's right.
he should be the main guy on some broadcast. I
Right.
think Kirk Herbstreit, good dude, better on college football. You can upgrade with Greg Olson, but I mean, are we thinking like are we nostalgic about Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy from back in the day? I got to be honest, I never was a huge fan of those guys. I thought Jeff was good, but he complained a lot about the rules. And then Mark Jackson was just catchphrases. And then when the game was boring, they would just talk about like car washes or Rihanna in the front row. So let's not act like they were amazing.
I was never a big Mark Jackson guy.
Yeah.
I was
Mama, there goes that man. It's like, that's not analysis.
Ernie's like Steven has him fired. I did. I had him fired. And it was unfair what happened to him. And then obviously there's Tom Brady who took over for him. Now, I wasn't a big Mark Jackson guy to begin with. Jeff Van Gundy was funny, but it's like once you're complaining, I don't know why players take 2 dribbles before they take a free throw. Just get the ball and shoot. What are you doing? And I never liked that. It got annoying after a while. There's sometimes when it's good. It's like, hey, that's the uncle when you're watching the game and he's had a few drinks and he just keeps on talking shit, which you love. But there's other times where it's like, okay, Jeff, easy.
Exactly. Like he was a good dude. He was always actually. Did I ever tell you the story about him, me messing up the times for him to appear on my dad's show?
No.
He lives in Houston, so Central Time, 2 hours ahead. I messed up. he said, I'll come on at 2:50, which I thought was 2:50 Pacific, and that's 12:50 our time. So I forgot to call him. He's emailing me. I'm not paying attention. He's like, you gonna pick up the phone? What's going on here? And then I finally call him like, oh shit, I fucked up. I called him. I said, hey coach. And he goes, I've been sitting around waiting for you to call. What the hell? And I'm like, hey, I apologize. We got our times mixed up. Can we get you on right now? No, the time has passed. You missed me. And I was like, ah, shit. But then years later, I emailed him back. He was like, it's all good. I'll come on with Tom. So, that's like the one time where guests, not the one time, there's many a time where guests have ripped my head off. But solid on the mic and a funny dude. He came on with Tom recently a couple years ago, and he was like, you know what? I think halftime's a little too long sometimes. But you know what? I will say, I'll extend it for Red Panda. I do love me some Red Panda. So he's got some funny quips here or there, but like, let's not act like these, every broadcast is amazing. And yeah, like Mark Jackson and him, like, yeah, I never thought Mark Jackson brought anything insightful. And I thought he was too spiteful years later. Like when the Warriors won their first championship and it was a year after he was fired. I remember him on the broadcast being like, give props to Steve Kerr. It's a great championship, but I will say everyone's focused on the butterfly and not remembering the caterpillar, whatever the hell he said. Like it was terrible.
I get where he's going with it.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. If you're on TV, just let it go.
On the caterpillar while you forget about the cocoon.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that Doris is getting too much hate, but regardless of all of that,
it's a thing though, isn't it? It's sports.
It's
By the way, I'm sorry, but this Alcaraz Sinner match is crazy. Alcaraz was up 5-3 in the final set, so looked like it was his, and Sinner has just won the last two. So now it's tied at 5-5. So you got to win by 2 here. So this could really go to a tiebreak at the end, and this is one of the longest matches in Grand Slam final history, which is already insane. Nice. You know what's funny though? Alcaraz. Question for you.
Answer. Hopefully,
you may not know Alcaraz, but he is 22. Just turned 22 last month. He just turned 22 last month, right?
I shouldn't be surprised by that because I should assume all athletes are younger than me. But damn it,
this guy goes back to his bench, and right next to him, some guy in a Yankee hat with glasses, and his name is Spike Lee. And Spike Lee is saying something to him every single time he goes back to the bench. Do you think Alcaraz has any idea who Spike Lee is?
No.
No clue. He has no clue. Who is this guy?
Spike Lee, back in the day in the 90s, yeah, because he was a fixture at Knicks games all the time and still is, but that was more of a thing in the 90s, and his movies, I would say, were more popular in the 90s. Today, yeah, he's a well-known director, but if you see him at a sporting event, I'm sure the youths are not going to know who he is.
No clue. No, yeah. I just watched a whole thing with Cam Scatabo, and he was on the St. Brown's podcast with Equinemius and Amon-Ra and Equinemius. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Amon-Ra.
Yeah. Amon-Ra. Ra's al Ghul.
Not even close.
Dude, he didn't. Oh, look, it's Dustin Hoffman. He looks gray. And Mindy Kaling. Wow.
Were they together?
No, they were separated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Dustin Hoffman was next to somebody. By the way, Dirk Nowitzki, remember that? The German people in Italy told me we call him Dirk, and that's wrong. It's Dirk. Dirk Nowitzki.
I'm not going to do that.
And Tony Parker are sitting next to each other at the event, which is cool. Shit, what was I going to say?
I brought up Dustin Hoffman. I don't know if that prompted something.
Cam Scatabo didn't know who Calvin Johnson was just by looking at his face.
Yeah.
They showed him a picture. Can you name this player? And he didn't even know who he was.
Mm-hmm.
Do
you know all the white guys?
No.
That'd be hilarious. Like as a white running back, he goes, "Nah, I only know the white players."
Yeah. What are you going to show? Like a picture of Calvin Johnson? Nah. Luke Kuechly? Yup.
Yeah, I got him. Oh, Peyton Hillis? Yeah, I know him.
Thomas Davis? Nope. Kevin Green? Yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah. Oh, Jordan Cameron, the old tight end from the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, I remember him.
Jordan Cameron was sick.
He was.
Um,
Not to be confused with Cameron Jordan.
Anyway, so I do think these young athletes, they've been so focused on their sport that they don't really pay too much too much attention to what's going on around them. I have a feeling that Alcaraz doesn't know who Spike Lee is. Roundabout way to say that.
Okay.
You
All
got
right.
there.
Well,
Took the
okay.
scenic route.
No, I like it. Game 2 of the NBA Finals is tonight. We'll see if the Thunder could tie it up, and I'm in agreement with you, Steven. They pretty much have to show everybody that they're the best team of basketball once again. So I think they need to dominate tonight. And then Game 3 for the Stanley Cup Final is tomorrow?
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. Let's do a little topic that Steven's been dreading. The day has finally come. Last Thursday, Aaron Rodgers signed a 1-year deal, and this is a perfect time because Steven can pay attention to tennis right now while I'm talking about this.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers finally decided to free the NFL media world and fans. He kept us hostage for months now, and he finally decided to show up for Steelers mandatory minicamp, which will happen tomorrow, and he'll address the media on Tuesday. He told them last Thursday that he's going to finally be a Pittsburgh Steeler. He signed a 1-year deal, $13.65 million. Could be worth up to $19 million with incentives. He's a man of his word. Said on the Pat McAfee podcast that, or show, I guess, that he would play for $10 million. And basically he is. And, you know, this is a story that everybody's been sitting on for quite some time. We knew this was going to happen, and now everybody just gives their take. And I think everybody was really giving their take for months now, where everybody thought, I don't think it's going to work. And I don't know what's going to happen. I do think that they'll probably be a 8-9, 9-8 team, maybe 7-10 at worst. I don't think this makes them a Super Bowl winning team. I think it's the best option they have given their situation. And, you know, every year they're competitive. They're not a threat in the AFC, but they have a solid defense. They got good skill position players. But quarterback is something they've lacked since Ben Roethlisberger retired. So they tried to fill the void a year ago with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and now we'll see Justin Fields play Aaron Rodgers week 1 with Fields as the Jets quarterback and Rodgers as the Steelers quarterback. But I think this is a mild upgrade and doesn't really help them a ton, but does it make sense? Yes. And I think they're never bad enough where they could just totally reset and get a quarterback. But I think it makes sense for the Steelers just for 1 year. I think it makes sense for Rodgers to have a better ending to his career. And that's all I have to say about that. I know we've been waiting for this. It's not like Aaron Rodgers is some scrub. I know that he is polarizing, and last season was a shit show. I thought he played better down the stretch, but whenever Aaron Rodgers is going to do something with the NFL, it's going to make news. So I'm not surprised by the intrigue around this. It's just kind of ridiculous. And I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah. Where's the intrigue? You keep saying everybody. To everybody?
Steven, was it not like all ESPN shows and most of like the Fox Sports shows talking about this every single day?
I'm not going to use ESPN and Fox Sports as a way to dictate what's popular with sports right now. Not anymore. Not anymore. Just because the national talk shows are talking about it doesn't mean that it's interesting.
I'm not saying you yourself can always dictate what is interesting.
Yeah.
But I cannot deny that those shows do talk about what's popular to the extreme sometimes. And sometimes when things are not even popular. Sometimes I think they talk about the WNBA while Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are interesting. I don't think that it garners as much attention as ESPN puts into it, to be completely honest.
I am of the belief that, well, I'm the same way you are, and that's why I'm not that interested. You just said it was a mild upgrade. That's why I'm not that interested in it.
Okay, here's the thing with me. We are, and I'm guilty of this. I'm not being a hypocrite. I'm lumping myself into this now. We are so impatient as a sports society now. And we are so focused on football. I'm guilty of that. Back in the day, I was not like this. NFL offseason, I paid attention, but I wasn't as enthralled as I am now for whatever reason. And I think that's just kind of the product of social media and podcasting and the 24-hour news cycle, where we don't give time to other things because we just focus on what everybody cares about. And even, yes, football by far is the most popular sport in America. But sometimes we forget about the other things. And I'm guilty of that all the time. I think about like back in the day where Brett Favre, whether he was going to play or not was a topic of conversation for the majority of the offseason. But it never was like with Aaron Rodgers where people were mad, like Adam Schefter, like being like, when is this news going to happen? Like everyone else can make up their minds when it comes to where they want to play, if they don't want to play. Aaron Rodgers, I'm waiting on this news. And I think it's because of the content out there right now. Like Schefter, how many ESPN radio shows does he do in a week? How many podcasts are out there? McAfee's on every single day. They're basically a football show and they're tied to Aaron Rodgers. So of course they're going to talk about this every single day where, back in the day in 2008, 2009, we talked about Brett Favre, but just because there was intrigue around him coming back and they put Scott Hansen on his front lawn reporting about him. But it wasn't like, we want answers, damn it. Like this was, in hindsight, kind of ridiculous because everything does kind of make sense. He had to deal with some, I guess, people close to him that were dealing with cancer. And with how much of a shit show it was a year ago where he decided to blow off minicamp with the Jets to go to Egypt, he was like, nah, fuck that. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to hang out with my rapper buddy in Austin. I'm going to go on Rogan's podcast. I'm going to do me. I'm going to go to the Kentucky Derby. I'm going to have fun. And then once I'm doing all of the things that I want to do at 40 years old, then I'm going to come and do my duty as a quarterback. And I don't think he did anything wrong this season. I think it's just us, me included, as sports fans, really NFL fans, the NFL media, they're so demanding of sports on their time.
He told us we were stupid for paying attention to what he's doing in the offseason, so I didn't pay attention to what he was doing in the offseason.
And that's fair on you. That's totally fair.
He was saying that. Look, I'm not saying the Steelers are not an interesting team. Sure. Do I want to see how DK Metcalf pans out with Aaron Rodgers? Sure. Am I interested to see how Jaylen Warren takes over as the starting running back when it feels like he was better than Harris all along? Absolutely. Yeah. Am I interested in Derek Harmon and watching how a guy who gets drafted in the first round and literally his mom's like on life support, it sounded like, and then obviously she passed away. I'm interested to see how he shores up that defensive line because that was a real issue for them last season. When the news happened, I kind of just said, all right, like, okay, fine. I don't really know like what the topic is. Can he be the same quarterback that he once was? Is he going to be better than he was in New York? They gave him everything. He's just given a lot of people ammo. That's the thing. He's given a lot of ammo, Derek, whether it's going on Pat McAfee and doing the misinformation thing, but forget about that. Going on Pat McAfee and introducing Devontae Adams as if they're going to win the Super Bowl now that they have him, and they ended up being just a mediocre team.
Yeah.
Like I just...
Not even that. They were a complete shit show and disappointment.
There you go. And for all we know, like this season, if things don't go well for the Steelers, then Mike Tomlin could get fired, and we'll look at Rodgers as the head coach firing guy.
I highly doubt that they would fire Tomlin. I think that he's been given so much power in that organization that basically, is it Art Rooney or just whoever's in charge now? Basically was like, all right, Mike, I trust you. We'll wait on Rodgers. And they did. And like behind the scenes, I'm sure like we all every day is like, what's going on? Is this going to get done? Is Rodgers going to leave them in the dust? I think from day one, he went to their facility and was like, all right, I'll come here, but it's got to be on my time. And these are the stipulations. And yeah, I think we all freak out because we don't have all the information, and the insiders, for the most part, don't have all the information or choose not to disclose it. But yeah, I mean, the topics of conversation, with Rodgers, it's been there for months now. We anticipated this, and I'm sure that he would rather go to the Vikings or Rams and have a offensive-minded head coach, and those teams feel like they're pretty much in play for a Super Bowl, where the Steelers in their own division, they feel like they're, ways behind. But we'll see what happens this season. But yeah, I mean, to me, this was more of a topic of conversation about the media and how demanding they are, and, just NFL insiders trying to do their damnedest to find out information. And we're just just relying on their information all the time. And then we want everything to be done NFL wise. And when something's still hanging in the balance, we're like, when is this going to get done? Like now we're done with Rodgers, but you best believe I'm focused on when Jalen Ramsey's going to get traded. But regardless,
Is this going to put them? Is this going to put them over the hump against the Ravens or the Bengals?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably
and he's
not.
really
Probably
lucky
not.
the Browns are a shit show, because then the Steelers will be looked at as one of the worst teams in that division, I think.
Yeah. And, that's all I'm saying. Like NFL wise, yeah, like it's kind of like how I felt with the Jets when he went to the Jets. I thought that they would be a playoff team, but are they going to win the Super Bowl? No. I feel the same way about this. The thing about Rodgers is, whether you like him or not, if you don't like what he says on his free time when he's on these podcasts, that's totally fine. But as a quarterback, I don't think you could deny that he's been so, I don't know, just electric through the years. Like I loved watching him play with the Packers. And then these recent seasons, yeah, he's been a shell of his former self. But I do believe just because the star power of him, you're still intrigued on what he does, even though it might be a train wreck. I do believe he did play better football down the stretch with the Jets, but I'm not going to think like he's going to throw 40 touchdown passes with the Steelers. But as far as Rodgers, I know you're not a big fan of him, Steven, and I want to have this conversation because I feel like people are turned off by him because of what he says on the podcast. And I personally, just the way that I've been kind of focused on, working in sports media, I've learned how to separate the athlete from the person they are off the field or off the court. And it's hard to forget about some things sometimes when things are awful, like Deshaun Watson or Tyreek Hill. With Aaron Rodgers, I don't see him as a bad guy. He's never done anything criminally wrong. Do I disagree with most of his opinions? Yes. Are there some things I agree with? Honestly, yes. But, it's just kind of him being in this, fuck it phase of his life. And I think that's kind of the world we live in now with a lot of athletes where they have podcasts. They don't get as political or kind of, I don't know, conspiracy theorist as Aaron Rodgers. But I think that's just the world we live in now where if you want to be buttoned up and you want to be just all about football, you can. Or with the platforms we have these days, if guys want to show who they really are and what they talk about, then they can also do that as well.
He's a jerk. So,
Okay.
it's not his opinions. It's not his politics. It's also him telling you, you are stupid. You are a sheep if you follow along and you actually believe in anything that the world is telling you. I just think he's a miserable person. It seems like it. And you know what, though? It sucks what happened to him personally. Whatever he's been dealing with this offseason, I'm not going to fault him for that. But there's been stuff in the past where it's like, why should I care about anything that you do if you're just going to be a jerk and self-centered and kind of egotistical? I don't get it.
Okay.
I listened to that whole 3-hour Rogan podcast that he did when he had
did you?
When he had the ponytail a while back. I don't know if he joined him recently.
No, he did. Okay, so you're talking about the one a couple years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just all this victim stuff, blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, geez, why should I have to care about anything he needs to say? I just don't. Well, I'm out.
See, that's the difference between you and me, where I would never listen to him talk about that shit. Like I know people are up and up.
But if you did, you would kind of get where I'm coming from. If you heard 3 hours of nonstop, hey, you guys are all stupid. You got to read some books. Hey, I read our Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book, and now I'm smarter than everyone else, even though that has been fact checked and showed to have a bunch of lies throughout that book. It's
I know. I hear you on that. But I have heard people talk about it. I've heard the clips. I mean, I remember him going on, McAfee and calling out Jimmy Kimmel. I don't agree with that stuff. I don't agree with him calling out Travis Kelce and calling him Mr. Pfizer. I think that's lame as shit. But I know not to get into that stuff because I'm not rooting for the person. I'm rooting for what he does on the field. I think that's what sometimes, we get caught up really now in our society of what people stand for and what they're all about. And sometimes I'm just able to, if they're just good at their craft, I can just focus on that. I'll be completely honest. I think that Louis C.K. is one of the best comedians of all time. I loved his stuff. Is he a creep at the same time? Absolutely. I've learned to separate the two. I can say back in the day that he had some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. At the same time, all the stories you hear about him with women, it's terrible. I cannot condone that stuff whatsoever. Like, same thing. I was watching the other day, American Beauty was on TV, and I was like, they don't show this movie that often anymore. And I think Kevin Spacey's an amazing actor. Is he at the same time a creep and probably will never work in Hollywood again? Yeah, but you can't deny that he's a great actor. I just can separate the two sometimes. I know that's hard for people, but I can take Aaron Rodgers for being a really good quarterback, and at the same time, I don't give a shit what he says on Pat McAfee. I could care less about any of that stuff.
Even though he's directly attacking like you, the person, and calling you stupid and saying that you're an idiot for paying attention to me and what I'm doing in my off season.
I think a lot of because a lot of
the people that you're mentioning, it's all written about.
Yeah.
And they're not saying you're stupid for overreacting. You all are dumb and you're all sheep. It's when it gets personal and you start attacking the masses, people who root for you. That's where I'm out.
That's the thing. Like, I'm not really rooting for him. I'm just intrigued by him as a player.
You just said you're rooting for him. Who he is a player. That's what he is. That's his job.
I know, but I still think you can separate the two, Steven. I think you separate him as an athlete and him as a person.
And I could also root against him.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
And
that's
not have any interest in what he's doing.
That's totally fine as well. But I think
that's why I hate talking about him, because I have no interest.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, like, yeah, is he egotistical? Absolutely. But I also, like, who isn't when it comes to sports? I'm sorry, like, there are more humble people, but at the end of the day, like, I still think people, like, they're just not as honest. I sometimes I kind of respect the fact that he just kind of shoots from the hip and doesn't give a shit. And sometimes I'm like, well, dude, why do you have to say that? Like, no one's asking you about that. You just brought that up unprompted because I don't care what anybody says. Rodgers also uses McAfee to say whatever the fuck he wants and gets away with it too. Like, that's another thing where McAfee thinks like he's buddies with him. No, Rodgers just wants his own podcast, so he'll show up when he wants to and wants to call out somebody, and McAfee won't do shit about it.
I'm not saying other athletes are perfect. Like, I don't know other athletes, but he's been doing enough media and has spoken his mind enough to where you can get an idea as to who he is as a person. Like, other people, not really. Like, do I know anything about Tom Brady? No, because he just didn't say anything to the media. He never said anything to the media. Never spouts his opinions. When he was asked about Trump and having the "Make America Great" "Make America Great Again" hat, never says anything. Even Nick Bosa, like, you don't know what he thinks because they just choose not to say it, because then there's people like me who could probably judge them. But I've seen enough of Aaron Rodgers to where I'm like, I don't need to hear anything he has to say. I don't want to see him on the football field. I'm not that interested in him anymore because he's not that good of a player anymore. I don't really know. I'm just whatever. Like, I didn't watch any Jets games last year, barely any.
Okay.
Yeah.
But are you? But you just said though you are kind of intrigued by the Steelers as a football team.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Jets weren't that interesting at all last year.
Well, I mean, just coming back. See, the difference is, I think, is that people will tolerate this a little bit more because the Steelers are the Steelers. They're a well-respected franchise, even though some people are questioning why they would be willing to be held hostage by Rodgers. And they're not going to be on national TV every week like the Jets were. It's not that. I think that's another reason why people should be kind of happy that he decided to wait on this, because I'm sure had the news come out that he was going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, they would have put him more on national TV. Mm-hmm. Now we get the occasional one. We'll see when he plays Green Bay. We'll see when they play the Minnesota Vikings in London. But for the most part, the Steelers are going to be on national TV like 3 times. So it won't be as annoying. But it's funny how his career kind of lines up with Favre, where Favre in the offseason would just kind of chill and won't give an answer. He'll retire because the Packers are pushing him out the door, and then he want to come back later that summer and get straight to the Jets. Or, like, people go crazy for Rodgers signing with the Steelers on June 5th. I was watching Favre's documentary yesterday. I forgot Favre signed with the Vikings August 18th. Some people will be like, whoa, like we're so like hung up on like, is Rodgers going to have enough time? Like Joy Taylor, like, why isn't he at minicamp? Why isn't he establishing a connection with his teammates? Favre was like, fuck that. I'll go to training camp and do that. And we were just kind of more accepting of that as a sports culture back in the day. And now we're just so fucking demanding. And me included. I'm not excluding myself out of this. I'm just as guilty. But it's funny how, like, I wanted to talk about separating the athlete from the person. And I watched Favre's not his documentary, but the documentary that was done on him on Netflix. Have you seen this yet, Steven?
Yeah.
So I watched it yesterday, and I thought it was well done. It talks about Favre being the godlike figure he is with the Green Bay Packers, and all the antics he had off the field. He definitely was a womanizer back in the day, and the Green Bay media knew that. He had his wife Diana, and everyone knew that he was doing that stuff while simultaneously she was dealing with cancer. All the stuff with Jen Sturger, with the Jets, him sending the dick pics and texting her, and all culminating. There we go. Got it. Finally, culminating to the point where we're talking about him today with the welfare situation where he stole money from people that needed the money in Mississippi. So it was fair, but I'll also say that a lot of the off the field stuff when he was with Green Bay and the Jets, I feel for Jen Sturger. Like, you're just trying to do your job, and this guy's trying to hit on you and, sending you unwanted texts and, dick pics, which I never condone that shit. And, he was being a creep, 100%. I totally get that. But like, as far as like, some of the reporters being like, well, the affairs and all that, like, I'm also going to say, like, he's not the first quarterback to do that stuff. Like, I know that not that I'm saying like fans need to view him as a god or anything. Like, that will always be the case. Like, some people will just not want to hear about what he did. And like, I love Brett Favre. He played for my team. He won the Super Bowl. I'm never going to see him in a negative light. But that's the case for Dan Marino. I don't see people making documentaries about Dan Marino. Now, I know the Mississippi welfare thing is a thing in itself entirely, and we'll get to that. But you want to look up Dan Marino? Dan Marino went to CBS, had an affair with an intern, and had a child with her. I can tell you like a bunch, like Michael Jordan. There's so many well-documented things about athletes and having affairs. Should that change how we feel about them? Like Tiger Woods, I don't know, but like, I don't think that should be the reason what dictates, if we view them as a great player or not. I just, as I'm saying with Aaron Rodgers, I think you can separate the two.
Yeah, but isn't like separating the two why he was forgiven in the first place and why no one batted an eye?
I think what I'm saying, when you could separate the two, that still doesn't mean he is
like people like is that the whole point of the
from a
punishment? Isn't that the whole point of the documentary? Is like they're saying that people knew that this was going on with Favre and no one bothered to say anything because he could do no wrong.
Well, my thing is the welfare scandal. That's deplorable. Like stealing from the poor to give to the rich. His daughter, she wanted to play. She went to, I think, Southern Mississippi or Mississippi State, whatever it is, and she wanted to play volleyball. So he stole the money, which it wasn't his idea, but people, asked him, would you be willing to take money from welfare? And he was like, yeah, as long as my name's not attached or anything. Yeah, that's a terrible, terrible thing to do. I don't think he should be exonerated from any crimes. Like, some people went to jail and he got off scot-free. I'm not saying that people should look into that for him possibly getting arrested. Absolutely. But I still think you need to have the conversation. I think just people need to be more educated and be open about the conversation, where you can say, I just don't want it to be like, who's the greatest quarterbacks of all time? Well, Brett Favre's the conversation. Ugh, Brett Favre, didn't he cheat on his wife? Yes. But also, he was a great quarterback. And yes, he stole money from the poor. He's a scumbag in those departments. But I think I can also say he was a good player. I don't want it to be where fans are just so focused on what they love and be like, Brett Favre could do no wrong. I don't want to hear about the welfare stuff. I don't want to hear about him with Jen Sturger. I don't want to hear that stuff. I think you need to entertain it all and just have a very fair conversation about athletes.
I guess. I mean, you're making very profound comments, but I think I can understand why people would be turned off by him, though.
Okay, can you be turned off by Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
I mean, you could be turned off by anybody, Steven. People have skeletons in their closet. That's all I'm saying is we can have a fair conversation. Like, O.J. Simpson, is he one of the greatest running backs of all time? Absolutely. Is he a terrible person at the same time? Yes. That's all I'm saying is you could just have those conversations.
Sure. But I think that's way out of what we're talking about right now. I think at the crux of what the topic of this is whether it's interesting that Aaron Rodgers has signed with the Steelers or not. No, it is not. I love that you're doing this for the athletes, Derek. You're making some very profound statements right now, but it does not make me interested in this Rodgers thing.
Well, if we're going back to that, then that's fine.
That's really what this stems from. And by the way, don't say no one cared when Favre signed with the Vikings in the late August of 2009. I remember people being pissed at that. Like, what is Favre doing? And then he went out and had a Pro Bowl season, so no one really cared. But I remember before that summer of that, everyone's like, "What the hell is he doing? What's taking so long?"
Yeah, okay, you're right about that. I do remember, God, Jim Rome was at his best back then. Remember when Jim Rome was doing Rome is Burning?
Yeah.
And he literally would, every day, it was, yeah, I guess I'm just forgetting some things, but yeah, Around the Horn, PTI, everybody talked about Favre every single day. And he would bring it up on his show, and he'd be like, oh, so, Brett Favre, back in the news. Apparently he wants to go to Minnesota. Cool. Moving on. Like, he would just entertain it for like a split second because he knew it was nauseating. I think we had, I don't know, I thought we were better back then, honestly, like as a society, as sports fans, where it didn't drive us crazy, where I think social media has changed us in that department. Maybe it changed me. I don't know.
I mean, Derek, it's been 16 years. I think you've changed quite a bit too. I don't think you had a great grasp on what the societal norms were back in 2009.
No, you're probably right. I think
I'm sorry. I'm just
no. You're right. You're probably. I had better things going on back then, where I was in high school and focused on other things in life. Where now I'm just like, when is Rodgers going to sign?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to comment on, I don't know, MTV or cable television shows, then fine. But like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
We were better back then. When you were in high school, how do you know how people were back then? You don't know.
I just think that, I don't know, the sports media that I remember back then was, I don't know, it could have been just as bad, but I like to think of it as better than what it is today, honestly.
Well, yeah, but today it's not journalistic, and today it's just a lot of hot take stuff where everyone seems to have an opinion. Just those opinions aren't made public as they are now because of Twitter and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, maybe too many opinions.
I get where you're going. But still doesn't make me interested in Aaron Rodgers siding with the Steelers.
No, you don't have to be interested. I'm not saying that. I just think that, I mean, like, you can't deny, Steven, when he was playing with the Packers in his heyday, he was amazing to watch. Yes.
Yeah. He was unreal. And he's never done anything criminal to where I hate him from that standpoint. But when he makes it personal, when you call everyone else an idiot, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm out on you.
No, I mean, that's fine. I get that. Like, I think some athletes are smarter than that to be like, let me not alienate my fan base. And Rodgers he's at the point in his life where he doesn't give a shit. So he'll just say whatever he wants.
Like, I think that's why Draymond Green turns a lot of people off, because sometimes he comes off as, well, you don't know what you're talking about. But it's also purely basketball, and maybe we don't know what we're talking about when it's purely basketball. But when it's something outside of that, like remember when he said that when he had the comments on defense, and he's like, it's more important what you don't know, and nobody really knows anything that's not involved with the game. And he kind of said that. He called out like the social media sphere, saying they don't know anything. It's that kind of stuff that gets you heated, and it's when someone tells me that the way I'm feeling is sheepish and wrong and stupid, and you're just following along with whatever they're telling you because there's this whole conspiracy. It's frustrating after a while when an athlete does that.
I totally understand that. I think you can roll your eyes at a lot of what Aaron Rodgers says. I totally get that. With Draymond Green, I do respect the fact that he does play the sport, and he's extremely smart. So when he calls out other media members for not knowing the game of basketball as well as him, I think that's fair. What I don't think is fair is him, like, revisiting Jordan Poole or calling out Karl Anthony Towns for going to a funeral. That's stuff where I'm like, Draymond, stop. besides that, I'm cool with him,
Yeah.
saying what he wants to say.
Yeah. I didn't realize the Favre documentary was going to be 70% about the dick pic.
Yeah, it was. And I didn't really know about Jen Sturger's background. I knew, like, I'll even, to say like we were better back then. Also, we were a lot more ignorant, me included. I remember when that story came out, I was like, why is she bringing this up now? And we get older and we get a little more mature, and I understand everything. It's funny though. She did say, like like the way that whole story came out, like it wasn't even her doing. It was she happened to offhand tell somebody she worked with that she had an encounter with Brett Favre. He went and disclosed all this information without her consent. And I feel bad for her in that situation. That sucks. And her career was basically taken away from her because she was known as the Brett Favre girl, which that's completely unfair. Also, I didn't know she got famous from going to a Florida State game and was wearing basically a bathing suit top. And Brent Musburger, he got called out for AJ McCarron's girlfriend. Remember that, where he was like, "Oh, a lot of kids are going to go to Alabama now." I tell you that. Kind of the same thing where he was like, "Oh, a lot of people are going to enroll in Florida State now. Looking at that girl."
Yeah,
and
it was the way that he said it, though.
Exactly.
There are thousands of red-blooded Americans who will now apply to Florida State.
Yeah, and he's not wrong, but like that's what started her career. And it's funny where she says like, Deadspin, the article, the publication, they every now and then they had like, a story that was very serious or a story with just girls with boobs, and I was like, well, Florida State, regardless, she's definitely became a more respectable host. But yes, she should not have been put in that situation with Aaron Rodgers. Not Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre. The whole thing was terrible from that standpoint.
The only reason I knew about her or that story is because of Jeff Pearlman, man, the Press Box Chronicles. He did a whole thing on it. And he's like, I hope Untold talks about this. And I'm like, he's like, he assumed that it was going to be all about the welfare scandal, but really, he's like, I hope that they actually mentioned this story. Turns out the entire Untold documentary is about her, really.
It is, and I'm glad that we get these documentaries that kind of give the other side of things. Like, I'm trying to think of other ones, but basically, like through the course of history, like, back in the day when I was a kid, people were making fun of Monica Lewinsky, and now it's good to get her side of things on like the FX show. Like, I'm glad we get the people that were really the victims to finally speak out and not just like, oh well, boys will be boys. I'm glad they're given that opportunity. Do
you like how with these Untold things, the Manti Te'o doc is meant to have you kind of sympathize with Te'o and what he went through and that whole situation with how messed up it is. But even though he's on NFL Network now, whatever clips get shared, people are like, I'm still never believing in anything this guy says.
And that's tough because he can never shake that. Some people are able to do that. I think if Manti Te'o was amazing on TV, then I think people would just focus on that. Right. Instead, he says like, oh, I could tell the 49ers, even though it was a solid take in hindsight now, but like I could tell looking at the 49ers of preseason that they're not going to be a good team. And I'm like, how could you tell that? That's a ridiculous thing to say. But he was right. So it's just the way he goes about it on TV where he's not that entertaining. But no, I thought the Brett Favre documentary was solid. I will say it's good to get Jen Sturger's is Sturgeon or Sturger? Sturger. It's good to get her perspective on everything that happened with her. The Mississippi thing, that's the one where it's like we're talking about criminal stuff here. That is, even though believe me, like what he did with her and the text messages, terrible. Brett Favre should be in jail. Like that's the thing that's the whole thing is it's not about do we see him as a god or we're going to forget about everything he's done in the past. No, Brett Favre should be in jail for what he did in Mississippi. Absolutely.
I always think it's really telling when someone doesn't choose to speak in a documentary like that.
Yeah.
You have a chance to publicly clear your name and you just choose not to take that chance because you can't. You can't.
And he still wants to act like he didn't do anything wrong. And he plays it off like it's people don't like me for my conservative beliefs. It's not about that, dude. Even conservatives are like, I can't condone that. You stole from the poor.
Yeah. Oh man. So they got French.
Yeah.
Roland Garros. Carlos Alcaraz ended up winning, and now they got Yannick Sinner congratulating the runner-up, and he gets a lovely tray as a trophy, and now it's a platter, according to Jesse from all the way.
That's a big difference. That's a big difference.
It's a platter, and now he has to make a speech. Oh, it's just tough.
That's rough. That is rough.
So brutal, man. This isn't a presidential election. You don't need to have the other person, come out and say a few words to the people that showed up to this to their convention. Like,
yeah,
I guess I understand it. Like, this is a time for them to say thank you and all that, but it's not easy for these players. It can't.
But why can't they do that in a press conference? Why do they have to do that on the stage in front of everybody and be like, "I lost. It sucks."
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not like oh, well, we thought we won. We're La La Land. Anyway, here's Moonlight.
That's why I've always hoped, like in the Masters, that it comes down to the guy defending his green jacket and the other guy, whoever's potentially going to win. Like, say this year, if it was Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler instead of Bryson DeChambeau, and then Rory McIlroy wins, and then he's got to put like the jacket on the winner, even though he's defending his green jacket. Like, that's got to be awkward. I don't know if that's happened in a while. It's kind of similar, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Classy, whatever. It's class, Derek. I guess we don't understand that. It's
grace, class and grace. At the same time, though, that would be hilarious to see those golfers do that in that situation where they have to give the green jacket to somebody. In the process, he's like, man, gold jacket, green jacket. Who gives a shit?
Oh man. What do you think they use these platters for? I think like you got to use it for like a cheese board, maybe,
or a nice charcuterie board.
Yeah, something along those lines. Like, I never thought. I mean, it's like, do you really want to put up a runner-up trophy in your trophy room? Like,
no.
I'm seeing if that could fit in the oven. I'm like looking on the underside of it and see what kind of appliances I could use. This go in the dishwasher? Do you have to hand wash this? How do you have to use this?
So that's a runner-up. The runner-up prize is a tray.
It looks like it, like a baking sheet.
Almost. Oh, sorry, platter.
Yeah, a baking sheet. Put a little bit of parchment paper on it. Cook some salmon on there.
I mean, hey man,
have yourself an extra baking sheet.
You know me. I don't have a lot of appliances around the house, so if people are giving out shit for free, I'll gladly take it.
Oh, let's email Yannick Sinner's team and see if he's willing to donate it.
Okay.
Hey, my friend needs a baking sheet. Can you give us the second place trophy, please?
Yeah, it's like when I was at your guys' place with you and Jesse, and she was like, hey, you guys, or Derek, you want some of this stuff? I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. I don't have much of this stuff. It's fine with me.
I'll say this, by the way, random, but yesterday in the women's final, the trophy has a lid on it. And Coco Gauff almost raised it. She had it at an angle, and the lid almost fell off. We need to do away with lids on trophies. It's just unfair.
Yeah, lids. Yeah, no lids.
No lids.
No lids.
If you're gonna do it, like, really, what's the word I'm looking for? You got to like weld it on. Make sure that it actually stays there. Don't have a detachable lid.
Well, is that the point where, like, if you have the trophy, is that something like you could put like candy in there later?
I don't think people are going to put candy in it, Derek. I'm more just speaking for the sake of like holding it up, making sure you don't drop anything, because we saw that happen recently. I think it happened in golf with Scotty Scheffler at the PGA Championship.
Yep.
The lid fell off.
Yeah, lids are kind of useless when unless you're putting something in there or holding it by. And the lid should not detach if you're holding it by the lid. Yeah. And lids on trophies, I'm with you on that one, Steven.
Yeah.
We're in agreement.
There's no lid here. Alcaraz has no concern. That anything's going to fall off of this trophy. Actually looks really heavy. But no lid.
All right.
Get rid of lids.
There you go.
Not the store.
What's that?
Not the store. We like lids.
Oh, yeah. The store lids?
Mm-hmm.
Solid. Mm-hmm. Moving on to a little baseball. Last time we did a podcast, Steven, what's up?
Oh, baseball.
I know. We were reacting in real time to the Giants coming back from a 5-0 deficit to tie that game up and ultimately win. And now they're on a 4-game win streak that saw them win in extras against the Atlanta Braves on a wild pitch. And then yesterday, a walk-off in the 9th with Matt Chapman. Giants have won 4 in a row and 1 game out of first place.
As the great John Madden used to say on KCBS, as I've been told time and time again, winning is the best deodorant.
That is true.
That's what it is right now. It's Giants winning is deodorant on an armpit. No, look, man, they were in a funk, and it's okay to be down on the team when they're in that funk, but baseball has a way of proving people wrong all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know why I remember this. Okay. And it's no shade to this guy, but I'm going to call him out because a little bit of shade. But I will always remember 2014 when I wasn't working at the radio station. I was working at Applebee's that summer.
Nice.
And I remember listening to 95.7. And it was after there were 2 straight sweeps for the Giants. They ended up getting swept by, I think, like the Reds and the Rockies.
Okay.
And it was around like July or August. So it was towards the later parts of the season. And I was listening to Troy Clardy at night. And Troy Clardy had like this extravagant show where the Giants are done. There's no chance they're going to do anything. The Giants are done. And then they obviously went on to go win the World Series.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he ate those words. I didn't listen to like any follow-up or anything, but I still remember listening to that show, that specific segment.
Troy Clardy. Wow.
Where he's like, the Giants, by all accounts, a really, really nice guy. So I'm sorry. But I just remember that take specifically, and that one where I'm thinking, I can't come to conclusions when it comes to baseball season. Not until you really are at the stage where they're done. Like last year when they went on like a 5-game winning streak to close the season, it was like their first 5-game win streak of the year. Like that's where I could confidently say it's too little too late. Like it doesn't matter. They are done. But talking about how they need to make sweeping changes, they need to fire their coaching staff. They need to call up Bryce Eldridge. To do that all at the start of June, it's a little too soon for my liking. So I think give it a little bit of time, because you can always look to the future and say, well, they got a tough schedule ahead. You got to get these wins before. You never know. It's baseball. Okay? It's baseball. And now they've won 4 in a row, and they haven't exactly done it by, being a complete power on offense. It's like they've been doing in these really close games again. And I think this is very reminiscent of those early 2010s teams when you're talking about torture. I'm not saying they're going to win the World Series, but those teams won a lot of close games. And I think that's what they're going to have to do moving forward. It's going to be interesting today. Spencer Strider's on the mound for the Braves. And that's one of those guys where you just watch him and you're like, Jesus, I got to do some squats. I got to do some leg lunges.
Got some good quads.
Have you seen the quads on Strider, dude?
No.
He's known for it. He's he rivals
bigger than Earl Campbell.
He rivals Nick Bosa, dude.
What about AJ Dillon? He had some big quads.
AJ Dillon did have some big quads.
The Quadzilla.
The Mount Rushmores of Quadzillas. I think Spencer Strider's right up there.
Okay.
It's crazy. But now he's got like a damn near a 6 ERA, I think. I was like, whoa, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. But then he came back from an injury and just hasn't looked the same since. But he's still got the quads.
Yeah, give props to the Braves, even though, what are they, like 7 games below 500 right now? Maybe more. They fought back from going 0-7 to start the season. But that, like in baseball, like I remember that stat being out there, like no one's ever made the playoffs going 0-7. I'm like, it's that's you can make that up easily in baseball. As far as like being hot takey about the Giants, it's what we do. Like I'd say in radio, sometimes it's easier to talk about when a team's losing, so you come up with these ridiculous takes that you want to have out there. And
sometimes,
then,
Derek, it's so much easier when a team's losing.
I know.
Me? When a team has issues, it's so much easier. What are you just going to gloat about them whenever they're winning? It was, hey man, the Warriors were great, but it was hard talking about them from time to time because you'd have to come up with some take where it's like, are they in trouble here? Like they're not winning these games in the first half. They're winning them in the second half, blah, blah, blah. It kind of became redundant, Of
course. That's what sports talk radio is. It's just talking about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And with the Giants, you can tell me how much I'm loving it. But as far as, it's fun some days. But some days, like, it's easier to talk about the Giants sometimes when they're losing, because then you could talk about, like, obviously come up with things and be like, make these statements being like, well, they're not going to make the playoffs now. They're going to fall apart. I don't know. Really, like, not like they lost a shit ton of games in a row. It's just they didn't score more than 5 runs in 16 straight games. And now they've got a good groove going. And maybe this could be a turning point in the season now when we look back to Elliot Ramos tying up the game, getting to second base and pounding his chest saying, let's fucking go. So you never know. And that's why I think, a lot of people talk baseball still, but I think the majority of people don't talk baseball because it's just a hard thing to talk about every single day where things just change like that. And then you look like an idiot from one day to the other. But I think that the Giants got a good groove going. We'll see what happens. One game out of first place, and we'll get a good gauge on them next week, not against the Rockies, but against the Dodgers. Back to Applebee's. How long did you work at Applebee's? I didn't know this.
Yeah, I worked there first summer. You knew this, dude. I told you about this.
And did you ever get any freebies? Was your lunch always Applebee's?
Yeah. I always went with the quesadilla burger. That was a big thing. Or the boneless wings.
Nice.
I love the boneless wings.
Boneless.
Yeah. Or the strawberry chicken avocado salad. It's always privy to that. I had it quite a bit. And you get it for free. Although what was really cool was you'd get the cooks back there to make you like some form of like a secret menu type item. Like they'd make the queso dip, but they put a little beef in there.
Oh,
no one got that. That wasn't on the menu. And by the way, that Applebee's is shut down now. I could say it. One of the servers.
Which location?
I'm not going to say that. It was in Livermore.
Oh, come on.
It was in
where was
Livermore.
it? Okay.
And one of the servers, who seemed like the nicest person, apparently had a little booger sugar problem.
Oh yeah.
And was also having a thing with one of the cooks. I was like, whoa. It's the introduction to the restaurant industry, man.
Yeah, man.
Damn.
That's what I hear sometimes is the restaurant industry, it's crazy behind it. Because like watching The Bear, yeah, it's bound to be crazy. You get screamed at all the time. You got to get this food out fast. You gotta be doing drugs and fucking all the time.
Exactly, dude. That's what was said in the job interview. It was like Matthew McConaughey and Leo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street.
It'll keep you straight.
You know how you get through this job? Okay. You know how you get through these late night happy hours? Cocaine and hookers, my friend.
Yep. A little cocaine. All right. It'll keep you sharp it'll keep you sharp between the ears. I tell you that.
But with that being said, I don't think, especially at those restaurants that are kind of like, Applebee's or Chili's or I don't know, TGI Fridays, Cheesecake Factory or whatever. I really don't think they get enough credit for how hard they work. I wasn't even a server. I was a host, and that was a tough job. Getting a chance, like having to make sure everyone's all set and all that, making sure everyone's comfortable. And one time I had this guy who was really mad at me, and I had a busy night one night, and I forgot, like, he was there with his wife and his kid, and it's my fault, I guess. The guy shouldn't have reacted the way that he did, but I forgot their high chair.
Mm-hmm.
And they left. They ended up leaving and walking out the door. And I didn't even recognize that I sat them. I totally didn't remember who they were. Like, I just said, all right, thank you. I used to go out, open the door, close it for people. Like, I used to do all that. And the guy looks at me and he's like, hey, do you not remember us? I was like, no. And he's like, well, we've been sitting over there waiting for our high chair. And I was like, didn't you get drinks? Yeah, we got our drinks, but we never got the high chair. So we are leaving, and this is your fault. All your fault. And he's like wearing this Hawaiian shirt, this happy Hawaiian shirt with a button up in the collar. I'm like, dude, okay. And then he just left, and it's funny, like, whenever you have those issues, you think like, oh yeah, you really got that server in trouble, or you got that host in trouble. Where in reality, the restaurant is going to defend their people if you have an outburst like that. If you settle it, with patience,
mm-hmm.
and if you seem to be fair and treating it fairly, then maybe the manager might take that server aside and say like, hey, you got to be better.
Right.
But if you're going to do that, if you're going to have an outburst, yeah, you're almost never going to get any sympathy from the people that actually work there. So that's just a heads up.
No, I would assume that. I mean, most of the time it's the customers being unruly, but as we know in the serving industry, Stephen, and mostly you, because I never worked in the serving industry, the customer's always right.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if that counts. Does that count? I was a host for 3 months. Like, I don't think that counts.
Probably not, but it's more than I did, honestly.
That's kind of where you could say I first had my start in radio, sort of.
Is working at Applebee's and then just, being frustrated all day and listening to Troy Clarity and his ridiculous takes.
Well, no, I used to, well, because one of my jobs was to answer the phone and I'd say, thank you for calling the Livermore Applebee's Hope of the Late Night Happy Hour. My name is Steven. How can I help you tonight? And my boss was the one calling and she's like, oh my God, you have a really nice voice. Well done. And yeah, that's where I got my start, Derek.
All right, if that's what you want to tell yourself. Moving on. Speaking of sports talk radio and media in general and outbursts, you noticing a lot of sports media on media crime lately, Stephen? Feuds, beefs?
I mean, not too much, but maybe one against a certain network, yeah.
Well, yeah. So, and former colleagues even. Pablo Torre and Bill Simmons, who both fancy themselves as kind of like, I guess, proteges of Tony Kornheiser. They both worked at ESPN once upon a time. I don't know. Does Pablo Torre still work at ESPN? No, he doesn't. He works at he does his own podcast.
Yeah.
Bill Simmons famously, not threatened, but like dared ESPN to fire him, and they were like, "All right, bluff called. You're fired." So Bill Simmons loves himself some Bill Belichick. And he questioned Pablo Torre's fascination with the Jordan Hudson, Bill Belichick, whatever, like the whole situation with them doing the CBS interview. So he, Pablo Torre had these reports that UNC wanted her, gone from the program and she was banned, which they released statements saying, no, that's not the case. But he had detailed reports. And even I was questioning on this podcast, being like, I don't question Pablo Torre, the journalist, and these reports, but I'm like, why does he care so much? And Bill Simmons kind of had the same opinion, but also kind of like questioned him as far as like, does he have some vendetta against him, or why is he doing this in the first place? So Pablo Torre went on Bill Simmons' podcast, and I thought, just from the clips, I haven't seen the whole thing, but just the clips I saw, Bill Simmons basically was like conceded and was like, all right, you make good statements. Like Pablo was like, I'm just trying to do my job here. Like, I don't know why you needed to call me out. Like, it's not a question of me making this shit up and I have some vendetta against Bill Belichick. It's just something that, was talked about in the media. So I had reports on it. And I thought that Pablo Torre defended himself pretty well. I mean, like, I think it's also fair for Bill Simmons to say something, but also if Pablo Torre is going to have facts to back it up and is willing to go on his podcast and answer everything that he's saying, then I think that's fair just as well.
Yeah, I thought it was very admirable of him to go on there. He also said it in a much smarter way.
Right.
Whatever you just paraphrased.
I know.
Hey, man, why are you commenting on my stuff?
Hey, man.
Why are you calling me out, man? Pablo Torre is like almost too smart.
Yes.
I've listened to him for a long time because he was one of those guys from Levitard who kind of came up through the Levitard channels, and now he works for his company.
Right.
It was Torre and Mina Kimes who were up and coming, and then they were all over ESPN. Torre was on Around the Horn a lot, and his podcast is really good. If anyone ever checks it out, but I don't know. Also, but there's not really a bias there, but you also know with Bill Simmons, there's a ton of bias with him and Bill Belichick and anything revolving around Boston sports. So it was hard to take Bill Simmons seriously when he was questioning that stuff.
That's the hard part, is if it's like me, like I have no relationship with Bill Belichick whatsoever, but I thought like Pablo Torre, not that I questioned his reporting. It was just like, all right, but why do you care so much? And that's his job as a journalist. That's what he was fascinated with, and that's his prerogative. But yeah, with Bill Simmons, it's hard to take the bias out of it. That's the part where I think everybody was like, Bill, just let Pablo do his thing. And then Pablo was man enough to come on his podcast and basically schooled him. Speaking of Mina Kimes, I also don't like beefs being made out of nothing. Like awful announcing, even though they have good reports. They suggested that Ryan Russillo and Mina Kimes were beefing because Russillo on a podcast was joking around with Bill Simmons. They're talking about how the NBA on TNT inside the NBA was moving to ESPN. And they were like, we think it's going to be shitty now. We think that ESPN's going to fuck with it. And Ryan just joked around, being like, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Mina Kimes on Inside the NBA. And it was just a joke. And I don't think Mina took offense to it. And then awful announcing made it out to be like they were fighting each other, and not the case whatsoever. So that's one that wasn't real, but yet in the social media world we live in now, it was beef made out of nothing. But then there's Michelle Beadle, who found out, and this is just how radio is and how just the lack of respect sometimes. Stephen A. Smith is moving to Mad Dog Radio in September, and he's going to have, I think, the noon to 3 slot. And currently, Michelle Beadle has that time slot. And she didn't find out about this until the press release came out. And she was live on her show and basically went scorched earth, saying like, well, it seems, at least Tom Thibodeau was given a heads up that he was being fired. I have to come on and do my show. And, I have to say this to the world. And you and I have worked in radio a long time. I don't think I've seen anybody put in that situation. I think the only, every time where somebody new was going to be brought in to take over for somebody, basically they were fired and they had fill-ins until that new show was, taking place. But I feel bad for Michelle Beadle having to find out that information and having to tap dance on her show. She had one outburst one day, then the next day they were like, all right, we're letting you go. We can't do this every day where you're going to be pissed off at us for making a change. She's entitled to be upset. I also think, though, I don't know if she knows Stephen A. Smith personally, but I read her comments the other day where she was like, I have no respect for him. He gets stuff wrong all the time. I'm kind of like, yeah, okay. But also, shouldn't you just be mad at your bosses for replacing you with somebody you don't like? I don't know if you have to be so honest that you don't like somebody because, you think that they're not really a real journalist. Same thing with Sarah Spain. She recently said something like, I don't think ESPN's putting real journalists on the air. They're putting on, former athletes or these influencers like Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith. And look, if you want to call them out, that's fine. But you also can't be naive with what's going on in sports media where it's not going to be journalistic integrity anymore. It's going to be people that get clicks.
Well, I think that's the ultimate issue that Sarah Spain was talking about, right? Like journalism is at,
it's dead. It's dead.
It is. And I think that's where she took issue with it. It didn't seem so much like it was about the Pat McAfee or Stephen A stuff, although McAfee has obviously just come on and kind of spouted stuff that is not true. And ESPN just kind of airs his show and he could say whatever he wants. It's not like they're held to these strict journalistic guidelines that ESPN used to adhere to. So I kind of get that. I guess Michelle Beadle's comments were out of bounds. Has Stephen A. responded yet?
Not that oh, yeah.
Michelle, I got stuff on you that I've never said. I've never said this on the air. You don't want me to reveal it. You don't want me to say nothing. Nothing. Because I got stuff on you. Yeah, I know you. We work together.
He loves doing that.
Yeah.
Isn't the famous KD thing 10 years ago? It's like, you don't want enemy out of me. I mean, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. I think he responded, or maybe Mad Dog did, where they were like, we understand why she was upset. That's not the right way to go about things. You usually tell somebody ahead of time, and you don't have to, be blindsided on national radio to say oh, I'm losing my job. That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Got to be honest. I didn't know she had a radio show on there.
Neither did I. I know she does the FanDuel show.
Seen that. Yeah.
Yep. She had a little slip up, I think earlier this year or last year, if you saw that.
Right. Yeah. Run It Back. Yeah. Coincidentally, that show is called Run It Back.
Yep. But
Run It Back on that one.
Yeah. No. But I mean, I get her being upset, but I calling out Stephen A. Believe me, I love calling out Stephen A. But I think for the situation that was presented, it's not fair to call him out just because he got a job. I think you should be mad with your employers.
Yeah, agreed.
But also that led to a funny moment. You see, you have the clip I sent you, Steven, with Fortenbaugh in his amazing suit.
Yeah, the jacket that everyone was talking about. Everyone was commenting on the jacket. Get up.
It was a solid jacket.
It is a really nice jacket. Hang on, I gotta.
I still think he should pull back. I still think he should bring back the mustache.
No, he does not. He does not need that thing.
He actually pulled off the mustache. I think he's got like a Paul Skeens thing going on.
I needed to see it in real time. Paul Skeens has like a thin mustache. To Joe's credit, it was more of a thicker mustache, like more on the Jim Leland, who's the Diamondbacks manager that used to play for the Giants, whose name is escaping me.
Tivolo or
no, not the current one, the old one.
Oh, Bob Brenly.
Bob Brenly, thank you. Not on, maybe like a Don Mattingly from the Yankees level. So I do give Fortenbaugh credit for that. And then I'm sure his reaction will be like, whoa, why are you talking about my mustache? Here we go. All right, this is before on ESPN. By the way, it's still crazy seeing him on these damn shows and seeing clips.
Yeah.
It's wild. Okay.
It's coming up in the world.
I got to tell you, you can bring it in as tight as you want.
Yeah.
Not happy.
What?
Not happy. Hey, buddy.
Do you see
realize
this velour? This
nice.
velour Hunter Green that's happening right now?
It's game one of the NBA Finals. We're going to come out big. But I got to tell you, this guy, what's with this new radio show? You realize you're going up against me in my time slot, aren't you? What are you doing?
Oh, competitor.
Sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't take that into consideration, but opportunities arose, not just for me myself, but for my production company, and I couldn't turn it down. I'm sure you can appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? You're a star here at ESPN, but if you ever need another job, I'm happy to bring you on board. I love you, Joe. You know that.
Okay, so the suit aside, I mean, the suit's amazing. Joe is 100% joking, and he's kind of making fun of Michelle Beadle a little bit because Joe does his radio show with our guy Q, your boy Q, simultaneously with what the time slot's going to be for Stephen A. Smith. Joe would always do that stuff. I'm sure he did it to you. He did it to me. Like, I remember after a Warriors playoff game, I tweeted out being like, everyone tomorrow is going to make you freak out. Relax. The Warriors are fine. And the next day, Joe's like, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're giving away the secrets? Come on, you can't do that. You can't give away the secrets of radio. Yes, of course we're going to manufacture the fact that we're going to do hot takes and we're going to act like it's the end of the world for the Warriors and whatnot. You can't give it away, Derek. But he's just joking around. Stephen A. Smith's 100% being serious. Like, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I'm not trying to take money out of your pockets, because he's getting enough shit from Michelle Beadle. So, yeah, I thought that was a funny situation because you and I both know Joe, and Joe's just fucking around, and Stephen A's like, I'm getting enough shit from people telling me that I'm stealing the time slot.
Yeah, you didn't get the classic Stephen A. laugh when you kind of know everyone's joking in that scenario.
Yeah.
I don't know if Stephen A. has that type of humor yet, or knows Joe that has that type of humor yet. Whoa! What are you doing?
Yeah,
whoa,
exactly. Hey, come on.
That's my Fortenbaugh. That's all I got. I can't impersonate the voice. All I can do is whoa.
Yeah.
And that impression mainly stems from the show we did with Brad Gilbert. And I've said it on this podcast before, and I'm going to tell the story again because I never get tired of telling it. But it was when Fortenbaugh, very structured, right?
Yeah.
It's like and the show at the time was starting to get very structured, especially when we went to commercial breaks. We were trying to hit them on time. And that's when we really started to be strict with it. And Fortenbaugh was, and the structure went, he's going to do the tease. He's going to give a little teaser as to what we're going to talk about in the next segment. Then we go to commercial. It was very orchestrated. Everyone knew what was happening. So, when he's speaking in this certain tone and he's saying certain things, like Dibs and Lowe knew when to just like kind of let him do his thing. And we're going to go to the next break. But, Brad Gilbert was filling in for Lowe that day.
No,
it was not much of an because like it wasn't like a big deal. It wasn't much of a big deal. But it was so funny. We just did this whole segment on the 49ers, and then Joe's like teasing. I forgot what we were going to talk about. Gilbert just jumps in and he goes, "And the Raiders, oh my god!" And then and then Fortenbaugh's like, whoa, what are you doing, Brad? BG, what are you doing? Whoa. I'm trying to get to break here. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's where that little impression stems from. Whoa, what are you doing?
I can understand Bruce Gilbert a lot there because, or sorry, Brad Gilbert because, yeah, I've been in that situation where I'm pretty much talking over somebody's clothes and tees, and it's like just shut the fuck up.
In the Raiders, I'll never forget that. Never.
Should we do a little Jackass of the Week / we haven't said this one in a while. John Fisher Award.
John Fisher of the Week. Sure, I got one.
Let's do it. Oh, you got one? Go for it, Steven.
This has made its way to. I actually, I should pull up the link. It's made its way to local news over this past week because it actually happened last weekend.
Okay.
And it started making the rounds. I need to pull up the article. It was first reported from. Okay, there we go. It was first reported from a news station in Salinas, KSBW. I want to pull up the original article just to give them the proper credentials here.
Okay.
All right. So on Saturday last weekend, it was the high school track and field championships, and this sophomore Clara Adams is a phenom. She is extremely good, and she was expected to win the 400 meter and the 200 meter final at the state track and field championships, and she ended up winning. But the judges didn't like her celebration, and I'll try and see if we can get a video of it. But this was the news story on KSBW.
Okay. So hard for that title.
The greatest moment of 16-year-old Clara Adams' young career taken away from her because of a celebration. After winning the 400-meter event at the CIF State Championships with a time of 53.24 seconds, her dream of winning a state title went up in flames after celebrating using a fire extinguisher.
When she blew the fire extinguisher, the opponents were gone. That was our moment of celebration. And the CIF officials made that about them.
So, point being, the CIF official, whoever did that, is my jackass of the week because they disqualified her from the event, stripped her of the medal, and then took her out of the 200-meter final as well. So she was done with the track meet, and it was all because of a celebration with her spraying a fire extinguisher on her feet because she was just paying tribute to one of the greatest sprinters in American history, Maurice Adams, who used to do that. He used to take off his spikes, and he used to have his coach come in and spray him with a fire extinguisher as if his feet were on fire because he was so fast. So she was doing that, and they ended up disqualifying her. So whoever that official is gets my jackass of the week, and I hope that something happens here. Apparently, there was something out that they could file a lawsuit that hasn't been official yet. But even Maurice Adams is like, they need to reinstate her. Like, that's ridiculous. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement on that. I think that looking at the celebration, like maybe it's excessive, but to the point where you have to disqualify her and take away her medal, that's ridiculous. No,
Excuse me, I said Adams. I meant Green. Adams is the name of the actual sprinter, Clara.
Gotcha.
But Maurice Green is the Olympic gold medalist. Like, it was just, I saw that. Come on.
And if you're doing an ode to somebody, like that's just the perfect form of respect. So, yeah, that's insane. No, I don't like that at all.
Not showing up any of the opponents. You're doing it on your own in the literal field at track and field, and you still get banned for it. Like, that's
the worst thing that should happen is they'd tell her, please refrain from doing the fire extinguisher celebration going forward. That's the worst thing you should do.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you saw her dad on there. He's a big dude. And he went over that railing, and he's like, hey, I went from coach to father in that moment where I was like, my God, get off my daughter. Just terrible.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. All right, mine's a little less sad. Like this, well, I would say it's more sad is the fact that this guy said this, but like, poor girl, she lost she didn't lose, she won, and the biggest moment of her life was taken away from her. That sucks.
Yeah.
This, though, is just a jackass take on television. This is Jason McIntyre, and he's like the NBA Finals. Why? Well, it's not interesting enough for him because not enough stars. You have the video, Steven?
Damn it. I was supposed to have that ready?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have said something. Yes, can you pull up that video I sent you? Yes.
Hang on, I got it. I
I had the perfect build up and everything. All right, here we
Yeah,
go.
you did really well. Good job. All right, here we go.
You know, OKC, Indiana. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm not that excited for these NBA finals. You know, I joke that Colin is the elitist here on the show, but maybe it's me. Because, you know, if I were the NBA, I would have changed its motto to give me super teams or give me death. Because that's what I like. I like superstars in the NBA finals. And we don't really have that. We don't have dynasties. We got debuts. And that just isn't as sexy as what we've had here in the last, I don't know, quarter century.
Do we want to keep going?
Let it play a little longer. He said some more dumb stuff.
Folks, let's be real. When the NBA had super teams, this century, it was at the height of its popularity. I mean, come on. You put LeBron, Kevin Love, and Kyrie in the finals. That's a lot of pop. That's juice. I mean, Kyrie Irving, he had a movie, okay? Kevin Love was ascending in Minnesota. LeBron changed teams and became the villain in Miami. But you look at those super teams in Cleveland, Miami, hell, the greatest team ever assembled in NBA history. Yes, that's true. Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Do you know how much excitement that was leading up to the finals? When you had all those stars?
Yeah. Yes. Rocket New Era makes a great point. Isn't that just Jason McIntyre's opinion, man? Yes, it is. But also, this is kind of what this segment is it's a dumb opinion. It's a stupid opinion because it's not like he's saying anything wrong there, but at the same time, he's just proving that he's not a sports fan.
Well, you're diminishing what they accomplished with that. Like, hey, you got to the finals. I don't care because you're not a superstar.
Exactly. Like, he's basically just saying, like, I like entertainment. He likes TV shows. This is like his equivalent of being like, yeah, I'm into more reality TV. I like Bravo as opposed to the Pacers and Thunder. Like, you're just basically telling yourself or telling the world that you're not a big sports fan. You only are interested when it's stars. And like Kyrie Irving's a movie star? What, his Uncle Drew? How many people saw that movie? Come on.
Hang on. And when did Uncle Drew come out? That was out in 2018. And so
that was well past the finals.
I think the next finals was 2019, right? So it's like that featured the Warriors and the Raptors. So he wasn't a movie star by then. My thing is,
I don't think you even could say he's a movie star. How many people went to go see Uncle Drew in the first place?
No one. This is not no one, but not a lot of people.
Yeah.
This is just a message to the production team. You don't need this shot if no one's in the other couch. You don't need that. You're just talking.
You have to show off that big, beautiful set, though, Steven.
It makes sports radio it makes you realize how ridiculous it can be at times when there's just like a single person who's just talking to a room. I always thought that was weird. It took me a while to get over that. It's like, hey, that was kind of the joke it's like, what am I saying? Is what I'm saying stupid? What do I know? I'm talking to the wall. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking to anybody in this room. It's just weird, man.
Yeah.
Sports radio solo is just an odd thing. Credit to everyone who can get it done. Like, you know, when Rick does the whole solo show, like, obviously it's awesome, but I'm sure it took a little while for him to get used to it. Even with him, like, there was a board op in the room at least, so you had some reaction. And, you know, McIntyre can look behind the production screen there, and you got the producers and whomever behind the wall. But I don't know. That shot just looked weird. Take that away.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's the co-host. He's the sidekick to Colin Cowherd, so he doesn't host the show that often. But, yeah, just a ridiculous take. It just shows that you're not really a sports fan then. You can't make stories out of these teams interesting. It means you don't watch all the time. It means you're just glued into the big stuff. You're a hype beast. You're not a true sports fan. That's basically all I need to know about Jason McIntyre.
Yeah, says a lot.
Yep.
Says a lot. Or he could just be, you know, rage baiting, trying to look for any sort of reaction.
That too. Yeah. All right, real quick, pop culture catch up. You been watching anything lately?
Ooh. No, haven't watched a lot of TV because there's been a lot of sports lately.
Yeah.
This weekend, for whatever reason, I saw like a clip of it on Twitter, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try and watch as much of that as I can this weekend.
Okay.
Lord of the Rings. I just started watching the Lord of the Rings movies again.
The originals?
Yeah, made it through the Fellowship.
Nice.
Then I got through that one on Friday night, and then Two Towers. When Jesse went to bed last night, I managed to get through that.
All right.
And now I got Return of the King. And those movies are so sick, man. I forgot. I wasn't like a big Lord of the Rings fan, but I didn't really understand it back in the day. Now that I understand it, so good. Oh,
Not the director's cuts, right? It's just the straight up original versions.
I can't watch the extended edition. That would take too long.
Yeah, dude. Tim tells me how one weekend he and his buddies went through the whole trilogy director's cuts in one sitting, and I was like, "You're insane."
How the hell do you do that?
A lot of weed, a lot of beer.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
You probably pass out on the process because at times those movies can drag a little bit.
So good though.
Yeah, they're very well made. I watched. I never reviewed this movie on here. A couple weekends ago, I went with my little brother to go see the movie Friendship. You heard about this movie, Steven?
Oh, with Tim Robinson.
With Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. I love that this movie's in theaters and it wasn't like a straight to streaming movie. If you can find it, we saw it at Walnut Creek. But yeah, it's Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave and Paul Rudd. And it's advertised as I Love You Man for Sickos. And yeah, it's like I Love You Man because it involves, men at a certain age trying to create friendships. And Paul Rudd's in it. But Paul Rudd's the reverse where he's the cool guy. And now, Tim Robinson's trying to impress him. It's nothing like I Love You Man. It is like a hour and 30-minute movie of I Think You Should Leave. If you love that comedy, you'll love this movie. If you don't like that type of comedy, your skin will crawl for an hour and 30 minutes. And it's not straight up comedy. It is awkward, just interactions among men. And there's moments like in the movie theater, it was a mixed reaction of me and my brother laughing our asses off, and then someone sitting next to us just being like, "Oh my God." It's not for everyone, but I highly recommend it if you like Tim Robinson.
Love that.
But you're not really a Tim Robinson guy though, because I know you like certain seasons of that show, but some you're like, he's just screaming and just cursing the whole time.
It gets old after a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. By like the third episode, I'm like, okay, I don't need to hear him screaming anymore.
Yeah, there's only so much times you can hear someone scream about mud pies.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people love it, so I'm not gonna, knock it and say it's just not funny. It's just, I don't know, kind of gets old.
I get it. Speaking of Netflix, season 2 of Tires just dropped. Shane Gillis' show. Solid show. It's pretty funny. It's worth a couple chuckles. It's a laugh out loud funny. No, but it's entertaining. It's funnier than most things out there right now. So I enjoy the show.
Yeah.
And lastly, were you ever a big Lil Wayne fan?
Yeah.
Honestly, I was more into Lil Wayne when he was with the Cash Money Millionaires and he was like singing Blang Blang. The other stuff like the Carters, the 6 foot, 7 foot, or A Milli or Lollipop, I never was really into Lil Wayne. And I know that people really dig him. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's a huge fan of his, but he's kind of, past like the Cash Money Millionaires days. He's kind of developed into this true MC, which I never really saw him as. But, respect. He's been doing it for a long time. I've heard clips and I've heard a little bit of the new album that just dropped on Friday. To me, like people are outraged, like, how it sounds and how like he's doing covers of Weezer songs. I just thought that's how he always was. That's just my personal opinion about Lil Wayne. I never thought he was that great of a rapper.
The Carter 3 is one of the greatest albums of all time, Derek. It's amazing.
Which one was that? Was that the one with the...
That was with A Milli.
A Milli? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, man, to each their own. Like, I remember when that album dropped. I think it was the 2010 summer. He's got some bangers, but, like, I never was a big fan of his.
So you like him when he was 15?
If you want to describe it that way, yeah, sure.
I mean, it's just
I was a fan of 15-year-old Lil Wayne.
You really liked him when he was Lil Wayne, like Lil Wayne.
Yeah, and at what point where you become a 40-year-old can you drop the little? Like Bow Wow is just Bow Wow now, but he was Lil Bow Wow.
Yeah, Jeezy dropped the young after a while.
Yeah.
But Lil Wayne is Lil. He's very Lil.
He is Lil, but couldn't you just be like, just go as Wayne or Carter Wayne or whatever his name is, Wayne Carter?
Maybe don't change a good thing. I haven't listened to the Carter 6 yet. I don't really plan to. I'm it's a lot of new music, man. I'm just not into it anymore. A lot of new stuff that's come out is not that original.
Yeah.
In hip hop right now, the big thing going is like Big X the Plug, and his music's fine, but it's like it kind of gets old to me after a while. It just all sounds very redundant and repetitive. And I just find myself thinking, if there's older music that's better, I can just go back and listen to that and enjoy it a little bit more.
Now you're coming around to the 30-year-old, I can't relate to this music phase.
Yeah, but you've been that for a long time when good music was actually being made. Now there just really isn't.
Yeah, I guess I just fancied myself as like a Philistine probably, but probably not the case at all.
Yeah, like I found myself going back to listen to like Danny Brown and his album Old, which is like before he turned into like Danny Brown, like before he turned into that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I did respect Danny Brown for a little bit of time, but most of the time it's like, the bitch pussy smell like the penguins. Like, what are you saying?
Yeah. Got burnt twice, but that was only gonorrhea. That was not him. But stuff like that. No, I just found myself kind of going back and listening to the older stuff. Like on the car ride home from the camping trip, Jesse and I listened to Encore by Eminem. It's just like that album's so good.
Encore?
Yeah, dude.
That might be his worst.
No, it's great.
Oh man.
What?
Oh wait, sorry. No, wait, you think of the Eminem show or Encore?
Encore. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah. Rain Man. Fucking Like Toy Soldiers. It's all really good.
Like Toy Soldiers is solid. I think the majority of that album is not great though.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
Agree to disagree, and that's where we'll end things today.
I listened to the Eminem show yesterday though.
Eminem show's great. Did you ever listen to the one that came out a year ago?
Yeah. It was all right.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. There's just not a lot of like great new stuff out right now that tickles my fancy. I'm like listening to a lot of like the one I keep going back to is Chromacopia by Tyler the Creator. And there's a couple of songs on there that you skip, but it's his newest one. I like it a lot.
All right.
Yeah.
Is it better than who was the guy you just mentioned? Big Dick the Plug?
Big X the Plug.
Okay.
We're the Mexican OT. We're really into big rappers right now, the heavyset guys. We love that.
We're going to the Biggie days or Big Pun, huh?
That's the big thing, yeah. Mexican OT is actually really talented. It's just a lot of their music all sounds the same. So,
yeah. You know me. I'm stuck in my ways. I'm listening to 90s hip hop, and no one can change me.
Yep.
Ever. All right. Mm-hmm. That's going to be it for today, guys. We will see you on Wednesday. To everybody in the chat, to Rock a New Era, to Ernie One, to Pat H, and good seeing you at the Public House for 58 Social on Friday. Shout out to AJ Cruz. He had to make mention that he's not sticking around, but yet the Just Your Positive Opinions man showed up as well. Come on to you. Come on to you, AJ Cruz. All right, everybody. We will see you on Wednesday. Steven, say what you always say.
Oh, it is just our opinion.